All right, here we go.
Let's go.
So today we are going to talk about the review screen. We started a small project to basically improve it. I'm going to quickly share the screen to show what currently that screen looks like for context. So this is actually the screen right now in Operately like production for our internal work. This is so as a reminder. So every goal and project in Operately has a champion, so a person responsible for executing that piece of work. In case of projects, the champion is responsible for submitting a weekly status update and for goals monthly. And so to pair that and to make sure the information doesn't slip through the cracks, there's also a second second special role, which we call reviewer. And reviewers are responsible for basically reading and acknowledging this information. And so currently the review screen in Operately is sort of the summary of all sort of check-ins that you're responsible for as a champion, but also stuff that you're responsible for as a reviewer to acknowledge. So for example, here we have check. Sorry. Nice. Let's go back. We have, let's pick this one. So yeah, check in, I read it, and then I'm supposed to press this button. Anyway, so prior to this project, this screen basically presented all this as a single list. We went ahead and separated my work. So as it says here, updates you're responsible for as a champion. And then the second list is for review, so updates from others that need your acknowledgement. And currently, this is what the screen looks like. You also receive a daily email update every morning that mirrors the information presented here. Now, what we started exploring is okay. So first of all, for example, I think that this separation makes a lot of sense, of course, and we all agree on that. What I was kind of curious is like, okay, is there a way? I kind of didn't like that, there's like more than 500 pixels on this screen before like the actionable stuff begins. When let's say you have nothing due in your work. So I was exploring sort of another layout where this information is a little more compressed. I didn't have as much time as I hoped last week, but I did share in Discord kind of where I got so far. I need to stop sharing the screen so you see the same things. Also worth mentioning, so here we have some maybe repetition that we may want to get rid of by grouping stuff in dates and so on. This is again details that we mentioned in Discord recently. Now I can just show like the last wireframe that I shared, and then we can take it from there, I guess. So one thing that I had on my mind is like there's a lot of space that we spent. This is not like, this is intentional that there is no subtitle to this screen. I just think everything below is so self-explanatory and already has subtitles that we can just save a little bit of screen real estate starting from the top. And then here, like basically the idea is to have different sections grouped into sorry, items grouped into sections that are collapsible or expandable. So in this wireframe, the my work part is very compressed. It's sort of collapsed because, well, you're all caught up, and yeah, there's nothing for you there, but there is something to review. And so in this sort of approach, you see this information, let's say, much sooner on the screen compared to the current design. There is an alternative. Then you, Igor, made a comment in Discord like this would have to be like this would be in implementation. We would have to use local storage to ensure consistent display. There's an alternative potentially view that I did not draw yet, which is basically to have like buttons like that let you show either everything or just show you my work or show you full review. Maybe in that version we would not need to make it complicated with local storage and collapsible items. And then finally, just before I stop talking, we also wanted to explore this idea of basically escalating overdue updates. So let's say I am a champion, you are the reviewer of a project. The check-ins are supposed to be written on Friday, but let's say it's Wednesday and there is no check-in yet. We want to send basically a message somehow to communicate to the reviewer that there is this project that, check-in that was not submitted and it's been, let's say, a certain number of business days. Similar thing for goals. And then on top of that, we wanted to kind of take it all the way. So let's say the reviewer also has a manager. We thought of basically bubbling up this information. So let's say it's, I forgot exactly, but let's say it's a couple of business days before the reviewer is not notified, and then maybe 5 more business days or something like that until the reviewer's manager is notified that a project or a goal is kind of getting stale, and we wanted to surface that information to ensure that, communication flow is continues to be healthy in the company and everybody is aligned and people continue to execute well. The last maybe conclusion that we had based on this little wireframe is this is not bad, but unlike, for example, things that go into my work or review, where clicking on any of these items would take you to either the check-in form if it's my work, or the check-in itself for you to acknowledge it when you're the reviewer. It's unclear what, as a user, you're supposed to do when something's been escalated to you. So you're neither the champion nor the reviewer. You're somebody. Well, actually, that's not the case. You could be the reviewer, but you could be somebody who is technically not part of the project at all. But in the org chart, you're sort of responsible ultimately for that as well. So this is where this is the point where we sort of, the discussion can now start. Like what are our options?
Well, I would probably go from start, because
Oh,
of course my mind wants to react to the last thing, but
mm,
um, so one thing that kind of bugged me previously was, most of the day I'm spending my day on a 27-inch, 30 something inch monitors, and then I visit this page like once a week, or maybe even rare, like once every 2 weeks. Um, I felt that if you're on a big monitor, if you're on a small monitor, like do whatever, hide what you need. But if you're on a big monitor, like give me all the information in a non-compact view. So that's why I don't really like even tabs. Like on this screen, I usually have up to 10 things. Like, give me everything.
yeah.
Um, and
This is what I. It's kind of not obvious because I use Whimsical here, and they have a palette of fonts, but it's kind of limited. Most of the font sizes are too big. Uh, but I also try to compress kind of just the spacing, the size of these like subheaders and stuff, because I was also going for like, yeah, let's not be afraid of information density, because at the end of the day you don't have 20 things here, but as you said,
maybe I
we want
wouldn't,
to show.
at
Yeah.
this point, maybe I wouldn't even call it like information density. Maybe I would call it like, as applications are responsive in the horizontal axis, I feel that a lot of the applications are not responsive in the vertical one. And then I usually end up with things that, like, obviously it could fit on my screen. Like, obviously I wouldn't need to click 10 times. But
Yeah.
because we are optimizing for the smallest possible laptop, then everything needs to be on the top and everything needs to be hidden. And it kind of bugs me that we don't use that. So I wouldn't even say that it needs to be consistent. Like, if you are on a vertically smaller screen, hide whatever to fit those things. But if I'm on a bigger screen, and I feel that lots of people in managerial positions are usually on a bigger screen, unless you're traveling somewhere, then give me information. Like, for example, what does the review page even mean? Like, give me a description. I'm visiting this page so rarely. Not saying that we need a subtitle, but give me information why I'm here, because this is not a frequently used page. It's not like my task board that I visit every day.
That's a valid argument, yeah.
Other than that, I mean, I still love your design, so I don't have anything against that. I probably have something against tabs.
Yeah.
That is not something that I would like to have. No, that is about the design. If we go section by section, the first two are probably the same.
Yeah.
Currently in the application, I like that we are very specific on every line, which might be even overhead, but I feel that it's not. That, for example, in the My Work, it says, write your daily or weekly check-in, and then it says the name of the project. And it's like very clear what I need to do.
Mm.
And in the review section, every one of them is just review. So there I can argue that it should be removed. Which brings us to the last one. In the last one, I would really like to have a very direct action what to do, or at least a general action. But as I'm saying this, I'm reminding myself that from all these categories, the last one is the most complicated from the user's perspective, because the application currently presented me with a complicated people situation. I have someone in the company that either just didn't do his job, and it's a complicated situation for me, or it's maybe not so complicated. Maybe he is just off for 2 weeks, and that's why this information was skipped. So with that information, I was feeling that maybe this should be just a review. When you click on it, you get the full information. Like, I don't know, is it a pop-up or a dialogue information, or a special screen where you get that information that, okay, this was escalated to me. It's waiting for 15 more days. It went through these 3 people. No one reacted, which is, in an organization of weird stuff. Why these managers didn't react to this? And then it's not like I have one possible solution for that. Some solutions are just, the page can say like, contact that champion. That's a valid thing. But also like, pause this project, close this project, like various other alternatives how to deal with this mess, because it's not the my work and for review, which are like very clear, very everyday situations. This is a complicated situation. And if the application helps me, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I to your point, I think vast majority of times the reason, like the reality of the situation is, and I'm talking here mostly about projects. There's no, I don't know what would be a valid excuse not to fill in like what's the status of the goal, like just didn't get to it, forgot, don't care. In case of projects, I think it's very frequent that bottom line, the sort of the project is not, the reality of the project is not reflected in the system. So it's either that the project is maybe on a pause, or as you said, for whatever reason. Maybe it was even completed. A common pattern is like,
There is just
everything was
this one
last milestone,
and we will
like,
leave it open for 3 years.
yeah,
Yeah, I know.
this is, so the nature, going back to the screen, the nature of the all these, let's say, items on the screen, is that they're ephemeral, right? So they don't produce, like, they don't show in the activity feed of that initiative, right? Which is fine, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? Because there are cases, like we said, sometimes, a lot of times it's trivial, but there are times when the reason is actually there's a problem, the project cannot be executed per plan. And in that case, it would be valuable to have like a record that said, hey, on this day, the check-in was overdue by 8 business days, whatever. And that, that is something that can be a part of a later, because it's recorded, it can be a part of a later analysis or reflection or something. I think it's potentially questionable, even if, because we are asking ourselves, okay, let's say, I don't know, Adriano is the champion, you're the reviewer, and there's a missing check-in, and it gets escalated to me after a couple of days. I don't think it's necessarily true that I have to do something with that information, right? I think the me being informed that this is the case is potentially it is the beginning and the end of usefulness that the system can provide, unless it can somehow facilitate all of these potential scenarios that we kind of just went through in a clever way, but we're not really close to that point, this potential.
We are thinking about the extreme here. So let's take a typical company. Someone is doing work. You have a manager or project manager who is reviewing your stuff, a department head, and then maybe someone from C-level, and maybe even above that. So if you think about the last level, it's just a notification. Like that person probably wouldn't jump down and actually solve that situation. But if you are thinking about the first escalation, that's completely different.
Yeah.
A reviewer should probably react immediately, and they are involved with the project, involved with the team. Just saying, it's not just a notification in that case.
Yeah, there is. I keep kind of slipping that there's a substantial difference between escalation to the reviewer and then the further escalations. I started thinking as a thought experiment. What if what would be the solution if we were, let's say, not allowed to develop anything new in the review screen as it is? But let's say there was a magic AI entity that can sort of use, let's say we have ChatGPT operator inside the system, and it has all the kind of tools around the goals and projects and spaces and available. Like, what would it do? One thing potentially is let's say in a goal, and I'm saying goal because in projects we currently still don't have discussions. But let's say within a goal, it will just post at the start of the discussion, like, hey, it's been X days since the last check-in. Can you look into this? And then if it's like the third escalation, there will be a message which is like that plus CCing Steve Jobs. And that's like that discussion, that discussion is something that people can communicate internally, like to clarify, maybe to decide what to do. And so it's all within the kind of initiative, and it's kind of in a transparent way. It's not like somebody privately messaged somebody. case it's been an escalation to higher up because of the nature of the kind of, you know, when you mention somebody, they're subscribed to updates, so you know the Mr. Higher Up or Mrs. Higher Up will be in the loop, like whatever is further discussed in that on that discussion, without any special effort.
My thoughts are very negative about this, just pointing out.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out the right words why I don't really like it. In one word, I would wrap it up like this is like a very specific people problem. This is like 99% in a people problem category for me. And I'm just trying to map it to any other email or reminder that I got from any bot, even if it's like an AI bot. And the weight of that is like some bot is annoying me compared to, you know, someone actually got an email because of me. You know, I can't really relate to some higher ups getting that email, but I can relate to a customer getting that email, and you know, you are the one responsible because you made someone else's life worse.
I'm not sure I follow, actually.
Yeah, my point is that I put completely different weights on a notification or any action taken from a bot compared to any action taken by a human. Maybe it's my personal thing, but anything that a bot does is like, I don't give a shit. Whatever a person does, very important.
If we put aside the fact that it'll probably start changing in the next couple of years,
maybe just an assumption.
yeah, in the legacy era of computing, yes, for sure. But regardless, in my mind, this sort of AI initiated message was is the equivalent of this little item in the review screen, and the presence of the little item in the daily email. You know, it's not because the whatever is part of this screen, whatever is being sent to you by email, is by definition also comes from, in some, you know, basically a bot, right, in your classification. So my I'm just making a point how, like, if let's say we would avoid being like trying to, I'm not saying there isn't a solution, but let's say trying to avoid being a smartass and, you know, like hard coding a very particular way to react to situations like this, we just automatically post a message that CCs relevant people based on the time passed, and that discussion thread is the point where people can follow up in a human way, right? That establishes a common ground. Versus a notification, you know, I mean, we'll, you know, before shipping this to real people, we'll have to think three times, measure three times. You know, I can see somebody just seeing this as just super passive aggressive. Like the system, like if you are the champion, and then you just like one day see this kind of message, like some implicit message that your reviewer's manager was notified, and you didn't hear a word, let's say, from these people, or it's just, I can see how it can be perceived as sort of creepy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a very different nature of these items versus these items, which are all kind of your stuff, your stuff on your screen.
On these things, what I really like is if you don't have a good solution, to not ship it at all. Like I'm very much in that category. If you don't find anything good, to not ship it. I think it's a better approach than to ship something, half-assed.
There is, I mean, we are in uncharted territory. I'm not aware of any software that does anything remotely similar. So it's hard to, it's okay, I think, that we don't know at first sight what is right. Potentially, I could see logic in like what in the argument of why do you guys even think that something has to happen beyond, basic surfacing of information, in which case, if you imagine, like, instead of using this potentially inflammatory language, and then this is called just like FYI, initiatives, whatever. Something in the spirit, and then it's just here. It doesn't, we just make it so it doesn't seem like a blame game. It's just facts presented. The goal check-in is overdue. Is missing. It's been due on January 31st. Today is February 8th. You guys figure it out. I mean, but it's useful that you are aware of this, which is,
I definitely feel that this is much less in that very, very militarized approach of how a system could work. What I don't like is it doesn't enforces accountability in the chain. Like, you have 3 managers, all of them are missing, to keep things clean. Like a very aggressive statement from me, but this is my nature, is like, what are those managers doing? Like 3 managers and things are not in a clean state. Do we even need managers? I'm over exaggerating, but kind of. And if implying
that is fine.
primary thing of a manager.
That is valid if that's what you want to do. If you want to send a Slack message to these people, whatever, privately or team-wide, like, hey, our priority is having all this information up to date. This has been overdue. Please see that in the future. Please fix this, and let's do our best to keep things fresh always. That's fine.
I mean, I agree with that, but let's explore this page in that case. Like, you have a champion, you have a reviewer. Both of them didn't react to this. And you are a department head, and what is my easiest way to get that information? Who did not react to this? Like, I must use that word, like, who should I blame for this?
Well,
And I don't want them to weasel out, like, sorry for jumping in, but I don't want any of those people to weasel out and, like, I wasn't notified. Like, I would do everything if I could, but I want to avoid that. But, like, what okay, what actually happened?
do you see my mouse?
Yes,
So just to clarify,
but it does not move.
do you see this?
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So by this little icon, just to clarify, I sort of intended, because in an earlier sort of implementation, you had an example which sort of showed, let's say, the full escalation chain of escalation. And in this version, I was like, let's see let's stick to like one main piece, one main line of information and one secondary. And so in this secondary, this is the person who is the responsible champion. This is the what. This is like the when, specifically with focus on like, okay, to me, this was escalated on this and this date. And behind this icon, I was like, okay, in the tooltip, we can show the full chain of escalation.
Yeah. I like everything from here. I don't like that it's a tooltip, but that's a...
We might mean the same. To me, it's all like, if it's on click, it's tooltip, but it can be harder than something that just fades out within 1 second.
No, my point was, I would rather be able to click on that item, the whole thing, and then get all the information that I need. It doesn't need to be very arrogant and attacking, but like, give me maybe even a link to the last check-in. Give me context. I'm not responsible for this project. I need more.
Makes sense.
But if I come back to my original question, like, if this is in that area of, let's say, for your information, is it correct to say, like, what is the wording then when we say 3 other people got a for your information, and these are the dates when they got it? Or should we completely scrap it, because that's it's a bit too militaristic, to be honest?
Yeah. Well, I did not kind of explore this at all. Like, if you are the champion who's late by 10 days, what do you see? How do you see that?
I think I never designed something like that. My idea was that on the item that says my work, there in the in that item in the sub paragraph, it says, some other people were notified about this.
Yeah. I mean, if we just kind of, maybe I'm going in circles now, but if you are any action, if you are not the champion and you want to do something about this, like regardless of the whether it's in, let's say, whether the situation is completely neutral or negative or whatever, it always starts with communication. And so again, if we do want to do something beyond just presenting information on a FYI basis, we can suggest communication, and we can, I don't know how doable this is in the application UI, but we could somehow convey tips of like what are, like, as we discussed, maybe it's a project that should be paused, maybe it's a project that should be actually completed and the last remaining thing moved out. There are more complicated actions, but they don't come first, such as changing the champion, reassigning the responsibility.
If I can jump back to the, let's say, the AI thread or the AI path, what I liked there was that, let's say, I'm not really sure how that interface would look, but that bot could automatically, or every 2-3 days, in the activity feed of that message would say, like, assigned or added this other person to this chat as well, or to this communication.
Mm-hmm.
And every day you visit that, like in 15 days, you see that 3 days ago it was this person added, that person added, that person added. And all of them can leave messages to just figure out what happened. It also feels natural to, even if it escalates to a COO, it would be, hey guys, what's going on? Why is everyone in this thread ignoring this?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a very natural question to ask there. But while I'm describing this, I somehow assume that we are on the tracking page. And then the champion somehow jumps in and says, sorry guys, like, I'm writing it right now. And then when he writes the check-in, that whole history still remains in that check-in. Like, this check-in was very problematic. We could see that in the history.
I don't know. I mean, it's the last part. I don't. I don't see. I mean, I don't see an issue. I mean, I just, if you're like, just imagine, okay, what if you, what do you have at your disposal? If you're thinking like I'm an AI COO, I have discussion, I have a message board. Great. So I can not only write a one sentence, it cannot be, it doesn't have to be a one sentence brute force military style notification. But I can actually, in that message, I can add 5 bullet points of like top 5, reasons um, things could get stale, and recommendation of how to resolve, and that goes in the first. That's part of the first message, which only goes to the reviewer, and fine, the same. There's nothing special. Like, what I kind of like is the simplicity of, like, we don't invent new special, aside from the magic that initiates it, but there is no special like user interface, um special new widgets, special new interactions to deal with. It's all like, okay, the champion can just reply to that thread, say, hey, I'm on it, sorry, posting right now, done. Also, it stays the whole thing stays recorded, part of the history of the project or goal.
I mean, this interface can still remain. I would actually like to have
I had exactly the same thought. Like, this interface can be the front end to this message, let's say. Like, what do we link to? We link to this message.
That feels very natural, because that is actually the action I would take. Even if I see this message, my first reaction is, okay, let's mention all of those people. I would open a DM with all of those people and like, hey, this escalated to me. I don't really have a context of this. Please explain if you need my input, or you can handle it on your own.
I think I see a lot of value in there because, frankly, it takes some personal, like, it takes some energy to initiate this message, even when things are probably okay. So it's kind of like, it takes your energy away, but it's necessary, and it's also just very kind of a standard thing to do. So, I mean, I would welcome that. I would welcome that the system has already done that for me, and we can just jump into the essence.
I mean, now it comes back to, is this really an AI, or is it just a flow?
If statement, yeah. No, it's not. It's not. But we can brand it as a yeah.
I mean, the AI can be a nice addition to this. If you see that, let's say, when you said that here are 5 ways how to avoid this in the future, if that was your suggestion, I think.
Yeah, to mention, like, to sort of remind people about the possibility that maybe this project should be paused, or things like that. But that's of course completely out of context. That may be helpful in some cases, but in some cases it will be completely not applicable, not appropriate. And yeah, AI can add or things that are appropriate based on the recent activity or lack of activity or activity in other initiatives.
What I was having in my mind is, if we have that message thread in some way, that it could display a message that says like visible only to you, like on Discord, with some tips how to approach this situation, both as a manager, both as a champion. One, how should I act in these situations? Because that is very helpful. Especially, I think, for champions, not for seasoned managers. They've seen this situation like a million times in their lives.
Yeah.
But the new champion who is late, an AI could be a sanity check. Like, okay, your first reaction shouldn't be, everyone is attacking me, I need to revolt in this company, but like, please explain in simple language what happened, assure that it won't happen again, and
Let's maybe yeah, let's draw this like to the finest detail that we can, and then review kind of what's our feeling.
Yeah. My main question is, when, I don't know if you want to draw it. I assume that you want to do that. My main question is, should it be just a message in a project? Because that is one approach. But another alternative approach is that, let's say, the system automatically creates a space for check-ins every Friday, or it already creates that thread. And if you don't fill it in, then it mentions people and do stuff. The benefit of this other, while it's complicated, is then when you actually read that check-in in the future, let's say 1 month down the line, you see the full picture. It wasn't just the check-in, it had a various contexts how that check-in was born.
I'm always for simpler, but let's explore that as well. I mean, the fact that when you open currently that's how we have it in the goals, right? So when you open the discussions, it's actually whatever you hand wrote plus check-ins. It's all one timeline. So I would kind of expect that the extra work that you described may not be that necessary, because kind of let's say the automatic message is part of that feed, and so it's kind of right next to each other. But to some extent I agree. It's like if we could physically connect the blank period with the check-in that eventually appears, that is that link is useful.
I can even come back to the how check-ins work on goals. I'm not super happy with it. When we mixed check-ins with let's say other messages, then the one biggest downside is that the check-in isn't a thing that you can rely on the product. You need to read other things as well to get the context. And reading other things, that's usually interesting for the person who was working on that goal. For everyone else who jumps in once per month, it's like, the system is now hiding things from me and I need to explore, make my life easier.
But yeah, maybe there is a point at which, like, actually you do have to put in the work. That's my kind of like initial reaction. But I would still, I would definitely hold on to this idea of like connecting these things together one way or another. If, let's say, a check-in was notably late, that is not that currently that's not visible at all, for example. So that's also something to consider.
Especially for goals. Like if you have missed a check-in on a project 1 week, here or there, not the end of the world. If you have missed 2 check-ins on a yearly goal,
Yeah.
okay, that's like 1 whole quarter.
Okay, let's go back to the drawing board then and take it from there.
Sounds good.